Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to rock. With me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones too, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny. We have a big show for you today. We have the one of the best that does it, Christopher Knowles, back on to talk about the Watchers and Mithras, and Mithras everything, dude. So it's really crazy. If you want to see me live, go to SamTripoli.com. I'm in Long Beach at the end of the month. I got some comedy chaoses coming up, and I have more dates coming. I will upload those as we go. And yeah, enjoy this episode. All right, let's get back in. Let's get into it. Very excited to have him back. It's always an interesting conversation. We start with one thing, and who knows where we're going to go. And that's why these are the best interviews. Very excited to have him back. He's the author, researcher. He's a dominator. He's a Nephilim giant. Please welcome Christopher Knowles. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, especially after that kind of introduction.
You look great, buddy. I don't know what you're doing, but you're looking shiny and you're looking good.
Well, clean living, brother. Clean living. No alcohol, no cigarettes,
How's that
food.
going? How's that going?
It's going good.
Yeah, it's the best. Waking up sober is I absolutely love it. So a very interesting conversation. Who was I just talking to? But my friend Tino Sanchez was he was bringing up that Tucker Carlson was talking about how they're trying to get rid of nicotine because it increases people's testosterone. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I've never heard that, but if that's true, it wouldn't surprise me. And they're doing everything else to drive everybody's T down. So,
yeah, I mean, like the thing is, can you get that clean nicotine that doesn't have all the chemicals in it that cause you to go crazy? And I think pouches maybe are better than smoke. I think smoking's really bad, obviously, for your lungs, and it is a big part of aging you.
Oh yeah, and but a lot of people are vaping now, so you can get your nicotine fixed that way.
And you hear that, like that can't be good for your lungs. Here, when you hit that robot dick, it can't be good for your lungs, dude. Well,
hey, there's a lot of better ways to drive up your T than nicotine. All right, so. I'm just saying.
Somebody told me because I just got a tattoo sleeve on my left arm that I need to start doing TRT. I got to start HGHing it. I got to just start getting.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought the same thing. I was like, I wonder if he wishes he had gotten a little more jacked before. You could have more real estate for that. The good thing now is the bigger you get, the bigger the Godzilla gets.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So Christopher, for those who may not be familiar with your numerous appearances on the show, one of our favorite guests, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Well, I've been a writer and a blogger, a published writer for better part of 20 something years now. I've been doing the blog since 2007. Do a lot of decodes, do a lot of symbolic breakdowns, and I'll tell you, my job is getting easier and easier because they're getting more and more blatant with the symbolism. So it's kind of like, yeah, hey. So I mean, I have a background in studying the classics and studying ancient religion and studying the Roman Empire particularly. And it gives me a great vantage point to look at all these sorts of provocations that we're seeing now, particularly at the Olympics, and tell you exactly where it's coming from, because a lot of people get sidetracked, a lot of satanic stuff and a lot of bad misinterpretations that kind of just send people running in circles. But that's what they want. I mean, the people who put these provocations out there, want everybody to just start running around, like chickens with their head cut off, screaming satanic, whatever. When it's really a very specific religion that I first noticed back in the 90s when I was walking around New York all the time. I was working in New York. I was freelancing. I was spending a lot of time in that Murray Hill area, the area around Grand Central Station, which is just a giant pagan temple straight up. And I just started noticing all these, I don't even know what to call them. I mean, a lot of lobbies you go into in a lot of those buildings, you'll see all sorts of very ancient, mostly Greco-Roman kind of symbolism. I mean, some of these lobbies look like temples, they look like ancient temples. So I really got a sense of, this is the seat of power. This is the seat of the financial system and so on. And what do these people really believe? Like what religions do they really follow? And I mean, the best example is just go to Rockefeller Center. It's all right there. And there's that big quote unquote Prometheus, which is actually Mithras. And I've been talking about Mithras for, almost 20 years now. And people are starting to finally realize, oh, wait, there's this weird cult. There's this weird old drug cult from the Roman Empire that never really went away. And some people are very interested in reviving and have been since the French Revolution, which is interesting that it was in Paris this year because they really were behind it. And look no further than the Phrygian cap of Mithras was this Olympics mascot. And it can't get any more obvious than that. But a lot of the symbolism that they were putting out in the opening and closing ceremonies, when you peel away all the gaslighting, is specifically Mithraic. And if you're not familiar with it, if your listeners aren't familiar with it, it was basically a mystery cult started with the rise of the Roman Empire. To me, it's very much an imperial cult. And basically, it was about like tripping balls and wearing animal masks and soaking yourself in bull's blood and banging twinks and meeting the Watcher ultra-terrestrials, so to speak. I mean, there's actually a liturgy that's in what's called the Paris Codex. That's basically how to trip balls and get abducted by aliens on a literal flying disc.
That's so
2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, they're writing about, you trip balls, you take this, and they'll lift you up in this, what sounds like a tractor beam, and there's this flying disc with doors, and then there's all these people there going about their business. It sounded like, some old Star Trek episode where some primitive culture is brought up onto the Starship Enterprise. It's just so weird, but you realize that this ties into a lot of things that I've been writing about, like the ultra-terrestrials and what people call the Watchers or fallen angels, not Nephilim specifically, but the Anunnaki. It's all really the same thing, and it's all really about the old gods and bringing back the old cults. Specifically, so people always ask me what's the end game here, and I think the end game is what we're all sort of moving towards, which is this totalitarian technocratic state where there's no freedom, and basically this cult priesthood runs everything just the way they did in ancient Sumer, where the priests ran everything. They ran all the farms and the factories and the temples and so on. It really is. I mean, we're really looking and dealing with religious fanatics, religious fundamentalists. It's just a religion that most people aren't even aware of existing.
Everything you're saying is like lining up with what I've been thinking so much about. Is just like, when Isaac Weissip was on the show, and we were discussing Late Night with the Devil, he said something that really crystallized like my view of where we live right now, is that we live in an occult realm. It's the occult. And the question is like, why are they becoming so obvious about it right now? why are they pushing these things so badly? Like when you study, we're going to get into the closing, but I didn't see the closing ceremony. So who was that? I was talking to somebody yesterday. They're like, dude, who watches the closing ceremonies? I think it was Howie Dewey, our friend, or something like that. But you know, he was, there was something with Tom Cruise, and he was like falling into the stadium, which sounds exactly like, Lady Gaga at that opening ceremony or the halftime show at the Super Bowl, which is the fall of Lucifer. And here is Lucifer, and I don't want to get too deep into that because we're going to talk about that stuff, but it just seems as though this kind of thing that was like quietly under, the obvious layer that everyone saw, this kind of like this thing brewing under there is starting to percolate above to the point where they just want to put it out, and they're not afraid of anybody knowing. And it's kind of crazy to me. And when you go, the people who run the money, like I've been trying to tell people this forever. It's like when you go, the Jews are running everything. It's too easy. It's just too easy. It's so obvious. It's too easy. And you just got to watch for all the symbolism that these people do. And they let you know what they really fucking worship. It's like they have to say they're Jews. They have to say they're Catholic. They have to say they're Muslims. And I know people are screaming, it's the Jews. They have to say they're Jews so that they can walk amongst us. Because if you really knew what they were into, you would lose your fucking skull. You'd be like, dude, I just voted in a Satanist into the Senate or into Congress. And I just feel like what you said right there really resonates with me.
Yeah, they're not afraid of anything anymore. I think all the pieces are in place, and there's no, I don't want to say there's no fighting back, because I don't believe that, but I don't believe they're afraid of anybody fighting back. And, we're seeing all they need to do is just gin up some sort of outrage as a pretext for more laws, more censorship, more deplatforming, all this kind of stuff. And, as far as the religion, I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter who somebody's parents were or what religion, quote unquote, they were, quote unquote, brought up in. It's what they follow now. That's really the stickler here. And I'm so mind boggled by how blatant and obvious all the symbolism keeps getting, but it's been that way for a while. So, I told you that there's Mithras at Rockefeller Center. The Mithraic cap is on the U.S. Senate seal, along with the fasces, right? Just go look that up for yourself. We can talk about the closing ceremony and the spirit of the Bastille, or the genie of the Bastille, whatever. There's a bunch of different things they call it. It's clearly Mithras. I always say when you get to the tippy top of the power pyramid, you're always going to find Mithras there. So it doesn't matter. I mean, Mike Bloomberg, people would think, oh, he's Jewish and everything, but he's got a Mithraic temple in the basement of his world headquarters in London. Yeah. Oh yeah. You can go visit it too. Actually, some of my patrons visited it, took some pictures. It's right there. I mean, and not only is it there in his basement, but he moved it from like across town. You don't put a Mithraic temple in your world headquarters just on a lark. It's not there for like to be a tourist trap. That's a statement. And you see it just more and more. Like I said, when I really started, I did 3 videos. So I recommend people go watch the videos because it's kind of hard to walk you through it. But all the symbolism in the opening and closing ceremonies, no matter how it presents itself, it all lines up, not only with Mithraism, but related sort of mystery cults and so on and so forth.
Now, is Mithras, in your opinion, the Satan? Is he the devil? Is he a different entity? Is he a different fallen angel? Who does Mithras represent?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. So you hear a lot about Lucifer, right? And Lucifer is a title, okay, meaning the morning star. And Jesus identifies himself as the morning star in the book of Revelation, and there's some early Catholic liturgies that Jesus is, in Latin is called Lucifer. So Lucifer is a title. It's not a name. It means the morning star. But Mithras was also called the light bringer or the light bearer. Okay. So when you really break it down, there's nowhere to go with Lucifer and Luciferianism per se. There's no literature or temples or, there's nothing you can follow. To me, it's all a cover for Mithraism, because Mithraism does have temples and statues and texts and all these kind of things. Satan, to me, has always been the state. Okay. And if you read particularly the New Testament in context, it's clear that Satan is a representative of Zeus and the state cult. But also what I've been talking about is like this whole effort to bring back the state cults, with the cult and the state. There's no separation of cult and state. I'm saying they're completely contiguous. That to me is also part of this endgame. So that to me, and in the book of Revelation, somebody pointed this out the other day on Twitter. In the book of Revelation, I believe in the second chapter, what is it? It's Pergamon, talking about like the throne of Satan is there. Well, what was there was actually the throne of Zeus. Okay. So Zeus, to me, Satan is also a title. Satan means the opponent, the adversary. Okay. And in the Old Testament, he's sort of like God's prosecuting attorney, if you read the book of Job and so on. But I believe that archetype represents totalizing power that people, particularly in the Jesus movement, saw not only as adversarial, but also, obviously deadly to them personally.
It's I do a show with some good friends of mine, and we listen to Johnny Cash read the Bible, and it's like the best thing ever. There's nothing more like soothing than hearing Johnny Cash read the Bible. And I've learned so much by reading the Bible about the Bible. Giovanni Vuk and Logan Smith, they're really great. They're 10th black belts. And, we talk about this. Like, I asked God to show me like what is the truth and what is that, what is not. And because it's so deep, it just goes so deep. Like, who is what his label is, what information has been lost over the years, who are the players, it's just crazy to me. But again, when you go back to it, I think at the core of all of these conspiracies is God versus fallen angels. That's just my belief. And the people you brought the term to the show, the Watchers. And I've been talking about that forever to anybody that would listen to me. It's these people who are worshipers of the fallen, the Watchers. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, I've been talking about this for a very long time now. But to me, like, how does this manifest itself? I mean, I still believe, and I get into trouble so often when I bring this up, but I still believe that these entities that people encounter with DMT and ayahuasca and so on, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of these entities, these kind of malevolent, insectoid, reptilian, bird-like, whatever, these sort of chimeric figures, those to me are the actual Watchers. And if you read the ancient texts, the Watchers were said to have heads of serpents. Okay. And that sort of ties in with Seraphim, who are the burning serpents.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Arena Club. Listen, if you love collecting cards, this is the best place you can go to do it. For most of us that like to collect cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Luka or a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, always have since I was a kid, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from Arena arenaclub.com. Now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of the retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repacked that proves real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and a clear hit rate for each one. Johnny, what have you been doing on Arena Club?
Well, yeah, as soon as I found out that we were working with Arena Club, I was stoked because I'd heard about it for a while. And what they're saying is absolutely true. Their slab packs, they drop them twice a week, and they're fantastic. Literally, the first time I got a slab pack, it was this Mike Trout, only 5 in existence. It was a PSA 10 red, worth like $1,000, and it was $100 slab pack. And I've gotten several other hits like that since then. I have my whole collection on there. If you want to come find me, I'm at Johnny Woodard on that thing. I think Johnny Woodard is the name of the showroom. Come check it out. Since then, I've added a ton of cards. I love it. You can keep track of them all there. If you want to bring them home to your set, it's really easy to request they be delivered to your house. I've sent cards in for grading. It's a wonderful service. Big fan of Arena Club. And like I was saying, Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they're immediately placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or even to put up for auction. That's a new thing. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided, an explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you gotta check out.
So here's what we need you to do. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/tinfoil. That's ARENA club.com/tinfoil for 10% off your purchase. Enjoy it.
The thing about reading the Bible is one thing that I think people need to keep in mind is you have to understand what things meant to people, and things get lost in translation, and it's always really instructive and interesting and engaging, I think, to go back and read what these words actually meant, read what they meant to people, how they use them, because people use words differently. I mean, we obviously know this, terms change, particularly back in, 100 years ago, gay meant, happy and carefree. It had a different meaning, and this happens with a number of different things. So you have to understand, what did these words mean to these people? How did they see the world? How did they perceive the world? These people were very intelligent. I still think that most of them were more intelligent than us, or in the aggregate, right? So they described the world that they saw, but we need to just learn what those terms and everything mean, because, like I said, words change, meanings of words change.
So do you want XG to allow you to share because you have some things you want to present to us?
Well, I did send you some slideshows. So, if you want to sort of go through those.
XG, did you get those?
Yeah. Do you want, which one do you want? It's about time, the Olympic satanic rituals, or which one do you want first?
We can do that one. I know Sam didn't get a chance to see it, but
whatever a
lot of things we can skip, but we can go to certain slides and everything that will sort of show what I'm talking about. But that whole closing ceremony was so incredibly bizarre. But the other thing too is that these Mithraic cults have a real hatred of women, and we saw that with all the Drag Race contestants in the Last Supper that they denied was the Last Supper. But what was the Last Supper? Because even the painting they said it actually was based on the Last Supper.
Look at that, dude! It's just unbelievable.
Oh yeah. So if you go down to the next one, I was talking about how I think these rituals failed, and I think there are going to be repercussions for that, and there already have been repercussions for that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because what these rituals are really is that they're ultimately magical workings. Okay, it's sorcery. It's literally sorcery. It's just sorcery, not like we see in Harry Potter or whatever. It's real sorcery, which is about manipulating image and events
Yeah.
and language and so on. So
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. All these things are high impact events to manifest a certain view and to manifest you allowing them to do what they want to do, because they just have these weird rules where they need our consent to do what they're going to do.
well, they don't need our consent anymore, I don't think. So if you just go down, yeah, so there's the cap of Mithras, the Phrygian cap. That's the mascot. And there it is. There's Macron.
Shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that obvious. It's that obvious.
That is so crazy. And who is that entity right there?
Mithras. That's Mithras.
My God.
Yeah.
If you're at home or you're listening to this, it's basically a old painting of Mithras, who has a cape that has stars and blue and yellow, blue background, yellow stars in an all red outfit. And on the top is a red cap, with just kind of like, I don't know how you describe the top of that, with a little button at the top. I don't know how to describe that. And then, sure shit, the mascot of the games is that cap. That is unbelievable.
What is it supposed to be? What is that red thing technically? If you ask,
No, not technically, but what are they telling you it is?
Yeah.
Well, they're telling you it's a Phrygian cap. I mean, they don't say this is Mithras's cap, but that's what it's called. And it was Mithras who popularized that cap.
Oh,
And then the French Revolution.
Yeah.
It's the Phrygian cap. That character is called Phrygi.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Yeah. So if you want to just scroll down a bit. Okay, so this is really important. I just want to, explain to people, because this really ties into what this religion is really about. They call this Prometheus, but this is literally based on classical depictions of Mithras being born from the rock, rising from the rock. And he rises above the zodiac because he's rising above the prison of time, and that's the flame. You see, there's the flame. He's the light bearer. That's the real Lucifer right there. And actually, there's another depiction of Mithras called Mithras Phanes, and Phanes literally means Lucifer.
So,
and
just real quick, so people that are listening know, what we're looking at is a statue, a gold statue, and it has what looks like a mountain, but it might be a flame. Is that what you're telling me? He's rising above?
It's the rock. He's born from the rock.
Okay.
And he's carrying the flame, and he's rising above the zodiac. And we see this in any number of depictions of Mithras, because he's freed from the bonds of time, which is the ecliptic, where the sun rises.
And he's a twink, so that lines up with what we've talked about earlier.
Yes,
so.
yes. There we go. So just go down. So this is what it's based on is Perseus. Okay, Perseus, the Greek hero, who is seen in the stars above the zodiac. So we see Gemini and Taurus and Aries and Pisces and so on. So he is seen as the figure who rises above time, transcends time. And that's kind of the purpose of that. Next to him is Andromeda. And this is also Saturn. So you can go back down. So the thing with Saturn worship is really about the fact that Saturn was seen as the outermost planet. It's the farthest planet that can be seen with the naked eye. So before they had telescopes, this was the outermost planet. So the whole point of Saturn, and I think something that gets lost, is that he's like the final boss. He's the final boss of the gods, of the archons, right? You have to get past him because this whole belief in the ancient world that, if you die and you follow somebody like Mithras, your soul will ascend to the stars. But in order to get to where you want to be, which is one of these constellations like Perseus or Cepheus or so on, you have to get by Saturn. He's like the final boss, literally like the final boss. So that's really the whole point of all the Saturn stuff that you see out there. And I think that's kind of gotten lost. The hymn to Apollo, which is actually Apollo Mithras. This is a depiction of Lyra. I mean, it's going to get real granular. We can just sort of skip a lot of this stuff. But if you go down. This everybody's seen this, right? On the left,
Yeah.
the Last Supper that they did at the opening ceremonies. And of course, what this is referencing here is Helios, Sol, Apollo, whatever sun god people preferred at the time, but mostly Sol, S-O-L. He and Mithras are just chilling out, naked on a little couch there and drinking wine from bull horns, and
they're hanging out on some weird kind of goat, sheep, ram bed, and it's basically the famous picture of the fat lesbian who is like
crowned with the sun. I mean, that's crowned with the sun. Okay?
Now, even though she came out later and said they were mocking the Last Supper, do you think that this wasn't technically the Last Supper, that was surface level stuff, or do you think it was the Last Supper that they were mocking?
Well, so there's a painting called Feast of the Gods, which was done in the 17th century, 1600s, which does mock the Last Supper. So they said, oh, we're not mocking the Last Supper, we're mocking this painting. Well, the problem is that painting is mocking the Last Supper. You can just go look at it for yourself. I mean, the alignments are sort of dead on. I covered that in another video. But this is all fairly well, they give themselves an out for gaslighting, not only for plausible deniability, but also for gaslighting. But if you understand the symbolism, it's stuff that I've seen hundreds of times over and over again, in particular. So just scroll down a little bit. We can skip this stuff with Lyra. Keep going.
It was so creepy.
So go up one. So this is these NPCs, and they literally these characters, sort of the unwashed masses. They look like NPCs. They have these gray coverings over their heads and so on, and they're prisoners of time. We see these rings that are all clock faces. So that is almost orthodox Mithraism. You just go down one. In the pagan religion, the first principle is infinite time. So you're escaping time, you're escaping mortal time, and you ascend into infinite time. And that's where some of these other figures come in, like Aeon, who has the lion's head and so on. Scroll down.
It's Mithras, Kronos too.
Well, here's the other thing. So go up one, go down one. There. So you heard about this, right?
Yeah, right. This was just after the Trump, whatever you want to call that, situation, and how the assassin appeared in a BlackRock commercial. Now this kid did some stabbing supposedly, and he appeared in a commercial as well.
Yeah. So, but he's the Time Lord. So we just saw that Mithraism is about infinite time. It's about mastering time, becoming a Time Lord. So in the middle of this whole situation, we have this kid who had done a commercial dressed as a Time Lord, Doctor Who. That situation makes me extremely uncomfortable. That's all I'm going to say there. Extremely uncomfortable. So
with this kid?
Yeah. Okay, so they sing the hymn to Apollo, and here comes Mithras Apollo, but there's a lot of layers here. And I'll show you why, according to them, this is actually an incarnation of Mithras here.
Now, for those who don't know, what Chris is talking about is the image that a lot of people on Twitter are saying is Satan or Lucifer. but he looks like, a weird kind of bee looking like guy. He's like super
Mm.
glittery, light. He's the bearer of light. I don't know exactly what your thoughts on that, but he looks like an insect, and he's somebody who he was a big focus of the closing ceremonies of the Olympics.
Right. And they called him the Golden Voyager, by the way. And there's a number of different layers here, but it's all sort of consonant with this whole symbol system that I've been talking about. And here he is ascending the human pyramid, the NPCs, and so on. It's very dehumanizing. I find all this stuff very dehumanizing. So this is sort of keep going. Donnie Darko, so scroll up one here. So we see here, I mean, it's clearly meant to look like pollen. Those little beads.
Yeah, for sure.
On the left, on the Golden Voyager here, and that's why I included this image of a bumblebee. But there's a specific symbolism at work here. First of all, the beehive cluster. When you see a lot of Masonic iconography and you see the beehive cluster or the beehive, that's based on an asterism in the constellation of Cancer. All Masonic symbolism is all stellar. Okay, I've covered this in some videos and so on that I've done, but it's also sacred to Ra, and Ra. So this gets back to the Saturn worship, because Ra is a sun god, but the god that he's the sun that he's the god of is actually Saturn. So there's all these connections to Saturn. There's all these connections to Saturn in Mithraism, and all these quote unquote sun gods, which were actually associated with Saturn. Now, this is where we've heard a lot of things that Saturn was maybe a brown dwarf, an unexploded star, or maybe it was a star at some point and it was extinguished. I mean, there are a lot of different theories on this. My feeling remains is that this is still just a reference that Saturn is the outermost planet. It's like the opposite sun. It's the reverse sun. It's on the other side, and you have to get past that to free your soul to ascend to the heavens. Wow. Go down a bit. But it's also, up here, it's also Beelzebub. So Beelzebub was the god of the Philistines that we see a lot in the Bible, and it's called the Lord of the Flies, or the Lord of the Things That Fly, or the Prince of the Powers of the Air. There's a number of different ways this figure is described in the Bible. Okay, but he's generally as an insect, but he of course is also identified with Saturn. Yeah, so it's just Saturnian. That's why I called this the Saturnic rites, of the Olympics.
Oh man, look at this, dude.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, and this I mean, I guess we'll see this. I got this from one of my followers on Twitter. Had posted this in response to a thread that I'd started. And I just kind of want to put that out there. So there is that. I mean, I see this figure more as a bee than as a mosquito. But if we just go down to the next slide. So mosquito comes from musca, which is Italian or Latin for fly. Okay. And Perseus, which I showed you as Mithras, has the head of Medusa. Okay, and that's Algol, which is the eye of Horus, the demon's head. There's a number of different names for this. But do you remember that guy who lit himself on fire in New York outside the Trump trial?
Yes,
do you remember that?
Yes.
So he was standing just outside the spot where they installed this statue that was Medusa holding Perseus's head. It's the gender inversion again. Yes. And they put that there for Harvey Weinstein's trial. So it's a naked woman, basically, with the head of Medusa and holding the severed head of Perseus. So explain to me if this was like in tribute to Me Too and all these women who had been sexually abused by scumbags like Harvey Weinstein. Explain to me how you pay tribute to that by having a naked woman standing in the middle of a public park.
Dude, well, listen, I don't know what it is, but these feminists love getting naked and protesting like that's hurting us. I I mean, they always do that. They did that in the airport. She went nuts, got buck naked, wanted to fight all the black guys. And then that chick at that painting, she got buck naked and she was like trying to sit on like one of the old expensive paintings. She was naked. Everyone's cheering her on. Like the weirdest protest I've ever seen in my life. It's just a weird protest.
Yeah. So if you just scroll down a bit, we can skip over some of the stuff because I kind of have to walk you through all this. Oh, scroll up. Okay. So they said that just one more frame. Up. There we go. Okay, so this is the explanation. The character was inspired by a number of references from France's historical heritage, starting with the spirit of the Bastille, according to the creators. It also references the Genie de la Liberté, which was also called the Genie de la Bastille. Is a bronze statue cast in 1836 by Auguste Dumont. The statue represents liberty and surmounts the July column in the Place de la Bastille in Paris. So liberty, so that Phrygian cap is also known as a liberty cap. Okay, so when they call it the Genie of Liberty. So just scroll down one more. Okay, so on the left is the Golden Voyager that we saw in the Olympics. On the right is the Genie de la Liberté or Bastille or whatever. That's just another depiction of Mithras. Okay, just straight up golden, the flame. So you can just see the commonalities here. Just go up one, go back. Go back.
That last
to the first
one looked like the Statue of Liberty, of course.
Yes. Well, Statue of Liberty is also Mithras. That's Trans-Mithras.
Trans-Mithras.
Yeah,
we have Nephilim Bayan and Trans-Mithras.
Well, there was actually the second degree of the Mithraic, Mithraic cults was called Nymphis, or the Bride of Venus. And of course, all the initiates had to dress up in women's clothing. And just use your imagination how that went. Anyhow, so could you just go up one more from here? Up. Yeah, so I mean, we see this is all classic Mithraic. The coming from the Omphalos, the Orphic egg, the egg of the world. That's, or we'll see the egg in place of the rock. It's the same thing because the navel, the womb of the world is a stone called the Omphalos that Mithras emerges from, and he's carrying the light, the torchbearer, the light bringer, and so on. And he's got the broken chain in his left hand, and that's liberty, the liberty cap. And so on and so forth. But there you go. I mean, it's just classical Mithric.
Yeah, look at that, dude.
So on the left is what's called the Genius of Electricity. This is actually the symbol of AT&T and has been for 100 years. And this is located now in Dallas, 3 blocks away from Dealey Plaza.
Which one is the
the one on the left?
Oh, with
the one on the left.
Yeah, with the looks like the fire hose. He's trying to fill the fire hose.
Well, that's based on Mithras Phanes. And there's another version of this at the gates of St. Louis University, which is the Jesuit college.
Oh my God.
But that's trans as well. It's a trans Mithras Phanes. AT&T went more for the typical one, but it's all the kind of the same symbolism. You can keep going down. You can get into the Watcher stuff.
Oh, and here is the famous rider on the pale horse, which people were talking about.
Which is a woman. Okay, it was a horse woman. So this is, we saw this symbolism in the opening ceremony, and it's all about like sacrificing your male genitals to become like a purified androgyne, which is also part of a number of these kind of cults and so on and so forth. But this person is, just go back, emerging from the giant phallus of the Eiffel Tower and gets the wings. It sacrifices, this person sacrifices their phallus and is granted wings, becomes an angel.
Oh my God, he's leaving his dick behind and she's flying away. Is that what she's like?
I'm
soaring?
out on that trade. I'm out on that trade. No, thank you.
Yeah,
that's crazy,
I will drive,
dude. That's crazy. I'll drive. I'll Uber there, lady. I don't need to fly.
So people kind of, they did a very good job at sort of putting in these misdirections to obscure the real messaging. The real messaging here is, the sacred androgen or the sacred eunuch, because we're in the time where I think the dominant archetype of our times is the toxic feminine, which is the harlot and the eunuch, which is really interesting too, because, the Democrats are running a harlot and a eunuch as their
What? Dude, that's so crazy.
well, I mean, about Kamala Harris, but I'm just talking
Waltz.
symbolically. I don't know if Tim Waltz, or whatever his name is an actual eunuch, but he certainly comes across as one and acts like a eunuch. So, but that's the toxic feminine. We're sort of going through these cycles.
Well, to go back, dude, very interesting that you just brought that up because, we all just went and saw Deadpool. And if you study who the bad guys are in Deadpool, it's a gay British man, okay, and a really toxic, basically feminist, bald feminist, which is like exactly who's destroying America from the inside right now anyways. So it's like very interesting you just said that because that is literally Deadpool. That is spoiler alert. We maybe should have said that before that, but spoiler alert, that's who the bad guys are.
Oh, well, there you go. It's the times we live in.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Mint Mobile, our favorite wireless phone provider. Let me tell you about Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and the first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotcha ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month with your purchase of a 3-month plan, they mean it. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, I've had some disastrous experiences with some of these, we'll call them big mobile industry complex, okay? Yeah. Big mobile industry complex. I've had some bad experiences, had some stuff where, like, they said I used up all my data and they charged me out my woo-woo. It's kind of crazy, dude. It's good to have a set price no matter what. This is our deal. I love it. You guys had any problems?
Oh, I mean, Verizon, I had a huge falling out with Verizon. Not to be trusted. It's great to have a mobile provider straight up like Mint Mobile.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they're totally shady, okay? I don't trust any of them, except for Mint Mobile, right? That's what I'm talking about. What do you think, Johnny?
I think this. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. That's a good deal. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. You don't lose anything. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month.
Now, it's real simple. To get this new customer offer and your 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/tinfoil. That's mintmobile.com/tinfoil. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/tinfoil.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Oh, then you got that boxer right there. I see. Yeah, so crazy, dude.
Yeah. So,
what's this about?
well, the Golden Voyager kind of reminded me of Frank from Donnie Darko, and also, has the wounded eye, and also masters time. I mean, that's the whole conceit with Donnie Darko, is going back in time and so on.
Oh yeah, there we go.
And there are the eyes of either Al Ghul of the Watchers. This is the Israeli hula hoop team or something. Very young girls. They kind of look like they're 10 years old here, but they're wearing the eyes, which could be, could signify the Watchers or could signify Al Ghul. Al Ghul rhythm,
It is a dancer rhythm. Do you We'll get to her, but do you have any thoughts on the star David being Rem fan?
Rem fan?
Yeah, the star of Rem fan. They're saying it's the star of David. It doesn't have anything to do with Judaism. Do you have any thoughts
Well,
on that?
it was originally an occult symbol. It was the seal of Solomon. Um,
If not, no big deal. It's no big deal if you don't.
yeah, it's also because it's six pointed,
Yeah.
and Saturn is the sixth planet. So there's also that's a whole other show we can get into at some point.
Oh, Saturn is the sixth planet.
Saturn is the sixth planet. Yeah,
Oh my God, dude.
yeah,
That is so crazy.
isn't it? It's crazy. Go down, and there's the boxer. Again, all this. There were a few of these, and then there was that all man person. Did you see that person? I didn't know what they were. Some sort of track and field thing,
Oh,
and
with
her
the black
name, her
chick?
surname. Her surname was Allman, and very extremely masculine looking individual. But listen, go back to the beginning of Olympics. There's always been biological men competing in women's sports. And you know who was really big into it? The Germans in 1936. Go back and look at the German 1936 Olympic team, women's sports. Ooh, and one of them has been actually acknowledged that it was born male. So there you go. There's the wounded eye, and of course Medusa, which the eye of Medusa is Algol, and this beheading symbolism here that they kind of pulled here. Again, it's all very hostile towards women. Go down to yeah. So this is the victory of Samothrace. This is actually a very famous sculpture. It's meant to be Nike or Victoria. But again, notice it's the headless. The whole headless rites, if you're familiar with occultism, particularly like Crowley and the OTO, the whole headless rite is part of it. So we see all this headless symbolism here. We saw that in the opening ceremony. And there's the Golden Voyager and, the headless victory sort of.
What does that symbolize?
Well, so I told you that it was the hymn to Apollo that summons the Golden Voyager. So it's a classical kind of invocation. So they're invoking Apollo, and Mithras Apollo shows up. And Mithras Apollo, ancient paganism is so really super confusing because they were constantly trading. No, like seriously, they were constantly trading identities and roles and everything like that. But Mithras Apollo was another incarnation of Mithras, and it was the god of like victory and triumph. So this is almost like some sort of messaging. And you see the lights, which is the stars and so on, because the stars are always part of this. It's very strange. We can, we can skip over that. But this is also related to that.
What does Papa Smurf represent?
Well, so that headless winged victory we just saw was from Samothrace, and Samothrace was the home of what were called the great gods, or the dactyls, or they had a number of different names. They sort of had these like crab hands. They had pinchers, like crab hands for pinchers, but they had reassembled Dionysius when he was eaten by Titans. Then Titans, of course, are the Watchers and the Nephilim and so on. They ate Dionysus, and he had to be reassembled from the poop, basically. And
What?
that's what this figure here is. You see, he's being this is all about the return of the Watchers, the return of the Nephilim, the return of the Titans, so on. It's the old gods, basically, and that's what the people at the Last Supper represent. They don't represent the gods in the Feast of the Gods. They represent what we keep seeing over and over again, that I keep writing about and telling people about, is that it's all about getting back to the Watchers, aka the Nephilim. So these people in the back here are in fact the Nephilim, who are about to eat Dionysus, aka Zagreus, which is why he's being served on a platter. They lifted the dome up, right? So that they're serving him for lunch here or for dinner. And that's what he represents. He's going to be eaten by the Titans or the Nephilim or the
He represents a particular god or entity.
Yes, yeah. So it all kinds of ties together. Like, to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff can be really half-assed, and I have this like kind of grudging admiration for how well studied all the symbolism is.
You said that. Do you think anybody there, do you even think 10% anybody in there that's participating knows what's going on?
No. I think the people who they're signaling to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I've said for a very long time is that a lot of times people think that this is being sent at us. And that's where you start to hear, these concepts like revelation of the method and so on. I don't believe that at all. I think that they're speaking to each other. They're signaling to each other.
It's like when Balenciaga, when that brand came out, it's not towards you. It's towards the elite that know exactly what they're looking for. And they know.
Excellent.
That's for us.
And it's also like if you're, you advertise your customers and they know their customers are a bunch of pedophiles. I mean, if you're advertising, you do marketing to people you're trying to market to.
Yeah, and there was that guy whose nutsack came out of his
right down here. That was Nephilim.
His little hot pants, and he was standing next to that little person. I'm not sure what the gender was, but
they were.
Of course, he had to be standing next to the child. When his nutsack comes out.
Was a child or just a really young-looking woman? It could be a child for sure.
It was definitely a child. It was probably a little trans boy. Considering what the kind of imagery here, and the mocking of Christ is the figure on who's in Judas's place, right, in the Last Supper, on the right there. That was the
black trans,
the go-go dancer. No, the one with the beard and the long blonde hair and doing
right there.
Yeah, that was the mockery of Christ.
So you say the Daisy Duke trans is Christ, not the fat chick with the sun?
No, that's Saul. So basically, Helios Saul was a Titan. Okay, Helios was a Titan. The sun god of the ancient world was actually not a god; he was a Titan. And this is why I'm saying this is all about the Titans. All right. So that's Helios supplants Christ. Christ is put in the role of Judas, the traitor. Okay, that's what this is all saying, because what they're all aiming towards, and you'll see this over and over again in just so many venues, film, TV, these kind of rituals, comic books, so on and so forth. It's all about the restoration of the, for lack of a better term, the Anunnaki or the Watchers. I mean, it's all different names for the same thing. So that's why, Christ is supplanted by Saul, because they see that Christ supplanted Saul. So it's just kind of payback there. Does that make sense? I mean, I know it gets pretty granular.
It does make sense.
All right. We don't have to get into the Tom Cruise stuff, but I did point out that the Golden Voyager falls, it's this fall from grace. But so,
I do. Yeah. 100%. It's the same thing.
So let me explain this to you, because, when you talk about the Watcher cult, so you think like, well, where is it? Like, what's the evidence of it? Well, the evidence of it existing, and an organization that people pour a lot of money in for reasons that are rather opaque to me, is Lucis Trust. So if you go back and read Alice Bailey's books, particularly early books, she talks about the Watchers, that the Watchers were the good guys. They fell, they didn't fall from heaven. They were sent down to earth by God to fulfill this role. And they're misunderstood. They were sent to the abyss by, Michael and the archangels and so on and so forth. But they will be freed. So we saw the same kind of symbolism in Astro World. Okay, I talked a lot about that, how we see that same symbolism in Astro World, because that's, the stage set was Mount Hermon and the circles of hell and so on and so forth. And we saw it in a lot of the graphics for Astroworld and so on. And also Travis Scott, when he did that Fortnite festival, he presented himself as a Nephilim with a watcher. I'm sure, I don't think he had any idea what he was doing, but if you go back and watch some of that video, you see him as a giant, as Nephilim, and then you see this big floating orb with a giant eyeball in back of him. So just bearing in mind what we saw at Astroworld, just realize that there's an entire religious context to all of that. Anyway, so
and you don't, and they, I mean, like, I'm not saying these people aren't smart. I mean, they've obviously achieved a certain level of success, which takes some kind of intelligence to make that happen. I would believe. So you don't think they know exactly what they're doing, or do they just
the people at the top know what they're doing, because it's just far too consistent, and it's far too accurate. Let's just say, like, it corresponds to the myths on such a consistent basis that it can't be, in my estimation, it can't be accidental. And they keep, like, so we see Tom Cruise and we see the Golden Voyage, and this is, of course, Lady Gaga and so on and so forth. And you notice that she has the pearls and so on that we see the guy singing Hymn to Apollo at the Olympics of. I mean, they just keep hitting these same riffs over and over again, that it's just a question of being patient and looking for the patterns to emerge. And then being familiar with the ancient material, so you can just see how this is sorcery, and it's about bringing the old gods back, aka Anunnaki, aka Watchers, and so on. And this whole thing with the fall, I mean, this is what, just go read those Alice Bailey. I did this whole thing. I did a whole live stream on my Patreon about Alice Bailey and Watcher worship, because you wonder, like, why does Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation put all this money? Why do they have these offices on 120 Wall Street? Who is this person? Who is this group? Where do they get all the money they get? Well, in my view, they are placeholders. Okay. And this has been a plan that's been going on for a long time, that Lucis Trust and so on. And now these Alice Bailey books are the sacred texts of this Watcher cult. And if you don't believe me, just go read them. It's right there. I mean, she doesn't disguise her agenda whatsoever. She said the Watchers, and she calls them the Watchers, were the good guys. And they were tasked by God to sacrifice themselves, to come down to earth and to teach mankind, all these sorts of things. So it's not, you don't need your secret decoder ring. It's actually shocking to me how much of this stuff is actually really open, and people just don't put the pieces together. And I think one of the reasons people don't put the pieces together is that you have all these sort of quote unquote influencers who just rush in and say, oh my God, this is all satanic, this is all Satan, and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, it's satanic with a small s, let's just say, but it's not Satanism, because Satanism is just a LARP for perverts and losers.
I said this before. It's just a bunch of goth guys trying to pick up fat chicks. That's all it is, dude. Bunch of Dungeons and Dragons guys picking up fat goth chicks. That's all the Satanism is. D&D guys.
Well, it's really amazing. I don't know if you know John Michael Greer, but he did this really interesting piece talking about how, like, Wicca and all these occult groups were really just like sex club for ugly people, and all the other, all the gobbledygook and the woo-woo and all the rest of it was really just window dressing, because it was really just about drugs and sex. And arguably, you could say the same thing about the Mithraic cults. It's just a bunch of dudes going into a cave and tripping balls and, banging twinks, pretty much. So,
these poor twinks.
Yeah, they just never get a rest.
Twinks versus everybody. They're just trying to live their lives.
So one of the things that I did talk about, Sam, is I was talking about how the opening ceremony of the Olympics I saw as a failed ritual, is a failed working. So it's a ritual working. So, I mean, we're familiar with this, and there are all sorts of iterations, from exoteric to esoteric religions, where you're sort of launching an enterprise, and you want the sponsorship of your gods and so on. So I believe very strongly that was the modus operandi of the opening ceremonies, but I think it failed. And all we started hearing all this bad news coming out of the Olympics, and all this kind of controversy, and like the negative stories and just the flat out ridiculousness kind of overpowered the positive stuff. And then, you see that like Paris was just basically a ghost town, and this whole project is just a complete financial washout. So I really believe, I mean, to me, it's encouraging, because I think I see a lot of these events that I've written at, and you look at them in the context of when they were performed, I see them as, like I said, as ritual workings meant to launch an enterprise. And go back to things like Highway 91 Festival in Las Vegas back in 2017. What else? All these Olympics, all these VMAs, all these Oscars. I mean, I've been keeping an eye on this kind of symbolism since the 90s. And back then it was mostly Masonic, right? And then they started getting like to the whole Egyptian stuff. And then they started getting into like all the occult stuff. And that's when people like Jay-Z and Rihanna and all these kind of people started bringing in all the occult and Masonic stuff. And I really believe that this was really a major recruiting drive for Prince Hall Masonry, which is an all black. Because when we saw all this stuff, when we saw people like Jay-Z doing Rockefeller and all that kind of thing, all the hand signals and all this and stuff like that, it was really a way to drum up interest in Prince Hall Masonry. And then I'm hearing a lot about this thing. Are you familiar with, what is it called? The Boule?
Boule.
Boule?
Yeah, which is the basically the black versions of the Skull and Bones.
Yes. So I think that this was all very highly targeted. And if you notice it all was timed to coincide with the Obama administration.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I really do start to wonder, like, how many people involved, these people getting elected or becoming prosecutors and stuff. I mean, how many people are involved in this whole program that really started with Obama?
Brad Binkley, who is on the show all the time from the Propaganda Report, he was talking about the Fannie Mae. Is that the prosecutor in Georgia? And how basically the entire like prosecuting office of that group is like a black sorority. And it's all like secret society shit. And you're either in it or you're not in it. And it's like goes all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally believe it. Things have really changed in many ways, but I also think this is why we see this kind of, sense of impunity, like sense of, daring people to react to it, because they understand that they've put all their people in all these sensitive positions, and positions of influence that will protect them. You know what I mean? I mean, it's all good.
Decades they've been doing that slowly but surely. It's like, just imagine if you had you had a house and you got a housekeeper, right? Or an assistant or something like that. And that person slowly but surely every day just fixes one little thing, flips one little thing, flips one little thing. Well, eventually over time, it's completely a different house. They've completely slowly changed everything because you're not watching them do it. And that's what they've been doing. This isn't like a couple year thing. This is a decade long thing of a small incremental movement to co-opt America at every single level. And they're in no hurry. it might take generations to do this. So if it's not done in our generation, we die off. We don't care because we know the next generation is incrementally moving this movement forward.
Yeah, but I totally agree with that. But the only thing that I would add to that is that I think this whole religious program is really at the core. One thing that I've noticed, and it's not even religion, it's cults. It seems like nothing really ever gets done big without some sort of cult involved. And I'm not exactly sure what this says about human nature, but if you really want to take over a government like the United States or a country like the United States or China or Russia or whatever, you need a core of fanatical cultists. You have to have that kind of concentration, because otherwise I think the energy kind of gets dispersed, because people have different motivations and so on. So I think that's the cult is at the center of this. And like I said, people go, well, what's the end game? What's the end game? And like I said, it's to reestablish these state cults. And as I've said, often under the cover of woke. Woke is a great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, woke runs cover for a lot of this stuff. It's a great umbrella. It's a great shield for a lot of this kind of activity. And it's all part of like I said, a totalizing technocracy, and really the reintroduction of feudalism and so on. There's basically the elite and the serfs, period. Look at the amount of energy that they put into just destroying the middle class is just really astonishing.
And most people just want to live their life. That's how they can operate, because we aren't pushing back. We just kind of like, hey man, can we just live our lives? And they're like, oh yeah, but they're still just pressing and pressing and pressing to the point where again, we've talked about this many times, like, okay, it's totally occult, symbolism, paganism, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's also like, I almost think like everything is an intelligence agency sorcery trick, which leads into secret societies and at the end of the day, bringing back the watchers. But I go like, do you think there's ever a revolution that just happens naturally? Do you think there's just a regular time where just regular people like, let's overthrow the government? Do you think that happens? Or is there just this kind of over time, this establishment of controlled ops to cause chaos? And like when you go to America and you look at the birth of America and the Tea Party and what that event happened, that sounds like a false flag to me. A lot of people were talking about just a false flag to trigger what would be this revolution, which we thought was us trying to get away from England, but really was it the international bankers pulling America from the British crown? And to take
even that's kind of arguable. I mean, it's like at the elite levels, there's such a lack of demarcation, right? I mean, the boundaries are really hard. Once you start getting up into those elite levels, where is the difference? It's arguable that it was an experiment, to set up an experiment. And now obviously the experiment's finished, and they have this new agenda that is rapidly coming into place. But the good news is, in some ways, is that I do think these plans are going to fail. I mean, these old gods no longer serve our needs. We don't think the way that people thought back then. We can't pretend that these things still resonate the way they did. I mean, paganism is a very inexact term, but when you just talk about like what I call the state cults and so on, it doesn't serve the needs of people. We have too many options. We have too many forms of communication. Yeah, they could shut everything down, but that's a lot of work. I really believe that this whole program is ultimately going to fail. The question then becomes how many of us go down with it, if you know what I'm saying. But we're really past the point. Trump isn't going to stop it. It's just not going to happen. And, part of me, the accelerationist part of me is like, yeah, well, Kamala is the perfect person to put in because she's so stupid and she's so cringe. And the more people see her, the less they like her. She's just an uncomfortable person to be around. And I think that there would be a tremendous amount of chaos in her White House. So maybe that's really what we need. It's like, you got to lance the boil, stop putting the ointment on it, stop pretending that we can turn back this train that's been speeding down the tracks. Just rev it up so it crashes faster. That would obviously have repercussions for all of us. But the sooner, see, part of the appeal or the mystique of these people is operating in the shadows. When this stuff comes out in the open, it's so cringe.
Hey, can you undo this, Xavier, so we could? Yeah, there we go.
Okay. It's so cringe, and these people are often just ridiculous, like they're just masters of cringe. It's so cringe that you want it out in the open because without that mystique of secrecy and gaslighting and so on, when you see this stuff out in the open, when you really drag it out into the light, you just realize how ridiculous it all is. It really is. It's silly. All this cultism, it all comes from like just drugs and sex, really. And the beliefs sort of were almost retrofit to justify, these kind of activities. But I really feel that the best thing to do is to let this run its course so but to expose it, so people can understand what's really going on as best I can. My limited sphere of influence. But to expose it so people can just see how stupid it all is.
I totally agree. And we've discussed this before, but when you have people that live in comfort, they can think wild thoughts. And it's until life gets really real that they are going to have to understand what they're in. And it's like, maybe this is mankind. Listen, I don't like war. I've been anti-war since I was a child. I don't want war. I don't want any of that. But maybe this is what happens to humanity when you just have generations doing well. At some point, the youngest generation just becomes spoiled brats and want to live in fantasy land and want to push ridiculous narratives because they feel guilty about how well they're living life.
Good times produce soft men, as the saying goes.
Yeah,
we're definitely in that phase.
Yeah,
or the soft men create hard times. Maybe we're nearing that. But
we're just letting them go on. Sorry,
but the point is that we've all been here before. These patterns have repeated themselves throughout history, and it's interesting to me because we are so obviously this imperial force, and we are the new Rome. That they sort of reach back to this Roman cult, which, by the way, all this Mithraic stuff, it was all created. It was all invented. It wasn't some sort of outgrowth, some natural outgrowth. Yeah, there is a figure called Mithra or Mitra from Zoroastrianism, right? But it's nothing like what we see with this stuff that I've been showing you. It's not even the same figure. It was all made up. And it was all made up to justify basically an imperial project of recruitment and espionage. That I think most people really overlook is how Freemasonry, particularly until the creation of the national security state. Freemasonry was the intelligence community. It really was. People tend to ignore it. I'm not saying that all Freemasons were, but it created a network that government agents could operate in secrecy, and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, like that has always been it, and their influence on causing chaos. And, it's like if you listen to the show or you're getting into conspiracies, by the way, which seems to be everybody. Mm-hmm. When I see Whitney Cummings talking about Mandela effect, I'm like, okay, well, we've reached peak fucking cuckoo crazy, right? Right? Good. I mean, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You're way late to the party. Okay, you're way late. I mean, you're way late. You know, and people. You know,
Better late than never.
better late than never for sure. We're glad Whitney's here, but you know, and it's like, you know, you're never gonna see this discussion anywhere there. This is so they're like 10 years away from this discussion. We don't have to ever worry about that. Like we're so beyond that stuff.
That's so funny.
But it's just like I just feel like when we watch this stuff, it's like, you know, when you take a look at like culture and what is culture, but culture seems to be like just manufactured by the intelligence agencies to just manifest certain behaviors that bring us to these old gods, right? Like that's what I just think that is happening. So if we go through the 60s and the early 70s and we see how much of that culture was just changed the way America operated. And then you look at each one of those people, they're all like FBI and CIA informants. They've all been installed to send culture to a certain way. And then, you know, we've done shows recently where it's like all of your favorite rock stars are like military brats and intelligence agency brats and all that stuff, to the point it's like there is a predator class that is manipulating all of us into certain things. And again, Dave Grohl, who you know, I've been listening to forever since I was a kid, you know, a very young man. You know, that guy is like, everyone thinks Taylor Swift is manufactured. Dave Grohl, completely and utterly manufactured. And what he represented. And yes, he is talented. Yes, he is talented, but his dad was a speechwriter for Reagan. There's no more fucking the man than that. Like,
well, there is. My favorite example is Blink 182. You know, we know Tom Long and his UFO stuff. Mark Hoppus's father was like a missile designer for the Navy, and DeLong's father was an executive with Occidental Petroleum. So,
oh my God. Jack Black's parents were both rocket scientists, or
quote unquote rocket scientists.
Quote unquote, dude. I mean,
quote unquote NASA, quote unquote the moon mission.
It's crazy to me, dude. It's
crazy.
Oh,
I did notice that Rogan's kind of back on the Apollo hoax thing, though. I was kind of encouraged to that, because when he sort of punked out on that, I really lost a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, it was weird to me because very rarely will you go back the other way. But, you know, it's very interesting. I mean, like, people are like, oh, now Rogan's about conspiracy. His best friend's Eddie Bravo. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to crack to that pressure. But it's, again, better late than never, right? I mean, that's my whole.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, especially with that stuff, because the more I look at Apollo and NASA and all the rest of it, just the worse and worse it looks. It's just really bad special effects. And if you go, oh, Kubrick did it. Well, no, go look at what Kubrick did in 2001 and then go look at the Apollo stuff. I mean, that's like an insult to his memory. He would have done a much better job. He would have done a much better job.
You're so right. If you look at the computers that they used or claimed, you know, used, I watched a documentary, you know, purporting to be about those computers. It looks like a child's toy now. I mean, it's something that
it had less.
No way it could have done what they were saying it needed. All the calculations. It could only do one process at a time, and then it had to change to another process. And when they
changed the tape,
right? Wait, well, yeah, it was all read-only memory, and it was all, and there was no changing tasks. So when they had that error, you know, right as they were getting ready to touch down on the moon, it shouldn't have been possible for them to land.
Touchdown on the moon.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, of course, right. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, it's, there's so many things about the moon landing that as you get older, you realize, oh, wait a minute, like you said, it's not even a good fake. It's not even it was enough to convince, because if you look at the other than Kubrick, the pop art around the pop culture of that time, you know, was a very low standard. So it just had to kind of exceed that. but by our standards today, it's like
nobody was expecting that, 50 years later, people would have home computers and be going through every frame. Nobody,
which is exactly why they destroyed all the data from
yes,
the landing.
and
It's my theory on the Challenger explosion and the astronauts, and we're not gonna get into it here, but
yeah.
it's just like they didn't think any of that was going to happen. They were just, and now like you find these people, same name, same mannerism, same everything. The whole point is like everything is an occult trick and illusion to manufacture.
Ritual. An occult ritual.
Everything isn't a ritual, man. We are up against sorcery.
Yeah, well, the sorcerer, as I call it. This is kind of full circle for me. So I started off getting into this stuff back in the 90s with I don't know if you guys know Richard Hoagland, but he used to have this site called Enterprise Mission. And I don't know who did it, whether it's him or somebody like Mike Barr or somebody, but they did all the stuff showing that all these NASA missions were all coordinated with like the movements of Sirius on the horizon, 33 degrees above the horizon. It was all like really precise coordination between all these different NASA launches and the movements of these constellations, Orion and Sirius and so on. And it's going on from that, you just start to realize that everything that NASA does, and even SpaceX does, is ritually timed. It's if not actual ritual, it's ritually timed. I mean, I think that NASA and all these other programs exist to test intercontinental ballistic missiles. I think that's what NASA's job really is, to get around all the test bans and so on.
And also to funnel money into black ops operations. If you're like, we need $50 million today to, so we can go live on Mars. And you're like, oh, okay, here you go. How much of this is going down to destabilize Latin America? How much is this going over to destabilize the Middle East in these black ops operations? And it's a great money laundering way. Nobody's looking for receipts. Hey, dude, how much? I need to see the receipts on the space laser that you're working on. And if you go back to Elon Musk, he just shows you everything that he does. Like everything about him is Baphomet. Everything from the logo of the Tesla that Johnny drives. Okay, it is a Baphomet logo. It is Baphomet. If you look at the worst costume ever, Captain Baphomet. He went as Captain Baphomet for Halloween. Like, what is that? What are we doing here? And it's just,
well, he was the guy from. To be fair, he was the guy from Kung Fu. That he was dressed up as a character from Kung Fu.
Okay, that's still Captain Baphomet.
No, it was what was the guy's name? Hold on, I'll tell you what it was. But.
Okay. Anyways, the point is, all right, that he just shows you the symbolism all the time, and what we need. Okay, we as mammals, that's what we call ourselves mammals. We always have to have an alpha. We have to have an alpha, and we have to follow someone. And it's like what Pike said, when they need a leader, we'll supply it. So they keep supplying us these corrupted guys that eventually let us down. I mean, it's just the way it is, because normal people don't want to run for president. They just want to pay their bills, take care of their family, and get laid once in a while. That's really all they want. And it's only a certain type of psychopath that goes for that kind of glory. It takes a certain type of person. And that's why all of these, everything is data, dude. Everything is we're crunching data to find out who the cuckoos are, who the psychopaths are, who the people will do whatever we want them to do for money and power and glory. That's it, dude. That's what all these kids programs are. That's what all the data on these social medias are. That's what all this data on these porn sites are. They know who they're looking for.
Not going to help the cause, but the character was called the Devil's Champion on Kung Fu, and that's the costume he's got on. I think it's a play on word. Yeah, the old Kung Fu series? Yeah, from the 70s. Oh. Yeah, I think it's a play on Devil's Advocate. I think, but yeah, that's being generous.
Well, the one thing, getting back to the Olympics, that Golden Voyager that we discussed, I'd have to see a really good picture, but it seems to me that like its groin area was Baphomet. Like it was the head and horns, like the horns were the hips and the head was the groin area. I'd have to look at it a little more closely, but I did keep seeing Baphomet there, which is an interesting place to put it.
So when this woman writes the book about the fallen angels were actually the good guys, what is
Alice
her
Bailey,
argument?
yeah.
What was her argument for that? Do you remember?
Because I said so. I mean, it's, it's interesting because a lot of her, one thing a lot of people like that do, and we see this in the occult, we see this in the New Age and so on, is that they'll really try to just confuse you with a bunch of nonsensical language. So what Alice Bailey do, if you read her books, and people like Kenneth Grant, a lot of these kind of occult people, is that a lot of the language is just like, what are you talking about? Like, wait, what is this? What is this? And then they come in and they go, oh yeah, the Watchers were the good guys. And that's the part that's all, cogent and rational, quote unquote. But, it's the argument is lucid. It's not just this weird barrage of buzzwords that these people hit you with. So, I mean, I'll send you the link to the video, because it's so surreal. But you start to wonder, like, why is the New York headquarters on 120 Wall Street, which is just a giant recreation of the Tower of Babel, basically, or Babylonian ziggurat, and then the European headquarters of the same group is right next to the Ministry of Defense building in London. So it's just like, actually, what's that guy's name? Oh gosh.
Or how about the fact that the biggest NATO building is right on the St. Hermes, where the fallen angels supposedly touched down. Like,
Mount Hermon, you mean?
Yeah, or whatever the name of that is. Hermon.
So are you guys familiar with Webster Tarpley? Do you know that name?
Yes.
Okay, so Webster Tarpley argued that, like, Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky were basically agents of British intelligence, and that their whole reason for being and where they got all this money was to just basically set up these networks, particularly in America, but in other countries as well. I disagree with that. I think Blavatsky was Russian intelligence, but I definitely think that Alice Bailey was British intelligence. And like I said, they continue to pump money into that group. And like I said, I think it's a placeholder. So when I don't think it's gonna work again, but when in their minds, when they reach this whole state of perfection, and they've instituted this religion of the Watchers, aka the Anunnaki, that people will all just sort of fall in, and they'll have this infrastructure that they've already set up. So, I mean, this is why a lot of people look at stuff like Ancient Aliens and see it's part of this whole program. I don't necessarily believe that, but there certainly is arguments to be made that people sort of in that milieu are part of it. I don't think that Giorgio Tsoukalos is I don't think he's on anybody's payroll except for his own. So,
well, it could be pushing a narrative and stuff like that, regardless of if you think that it's God versus fallen angels, and then you get biblical where we live, you push a narrative of space, whatever that narrative may be, that helps push an agenda too, which is, anti-God. That's what I think it is. It gets people to believe in a certain narrative over what religious people want to believe, or Christians want to believe, or whatever the group is. I mean, there's definitely a war on God. This stuff that you were talking about today makes me 100% believe that even more than I did before, that this is just, again, it's just fallen angels and Watchers versus God. And it's an interesting discussion for sure. And it's at all aspects too. All aspects. They just keep pushing it. And this Olympics was so crazy because there's so much money on the line with when somebody like, I think NBC gets the Olympics, right? And Paris gets the Olympics. Like, there's so much money invested in this, and to risk people like getting offended by your opening ceremony and alienate people is so insane to me that again makes me think that it's never about money, dude. They have all the money, they have all the power. It's really about God versus fallen angels more than anything. Because I guarantee you, France, and we obviously don't know America, have centralized banks and they could just print more money to clean it all up. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing that I would say again is, I mean, maybe I'm just a bleary-eyed optimist, but I don't think it's going to work ultimately. And reason being is that so much of it is against natural law.
Yes.
And that's really the backstop for all of this is natural law. So you can get away with all these sort of provocations and all these sorcerous rituals and so on. But when the rubber hits the road, if you're not in tune with the way things actually work, you can't go against that. So again, I mean, I think we're sort of fated for a really bad period, right? Like a real crackdown, a real bad period. But I think on the other side of that, but to me, it's almost like these people just need to fail. They need their time up at bat so they can strike out, is basically how I see it. This is why, you've sort of have to let people have their peace so you can argue against it. If you keep suppressing it, all you're doing is creating mystique and creating sort of the sense of the underdog and so on. These people aren't underdogs, and there's no mystique. It's just really dumb, cringe put-ons, really, and they need to fail. But in the meantime, what I try to do and what other people are trying to do is just sort of expose this stuff so we can demystify this. Because I think a lot of this stuff, what it has, even if people don't understand this stuff, they don't know what they're looking at. But they get the gestalt of it, they get the effect of it. And the effect of it is to demoralize us, it's depress and demoralize.
Yes.
And that's really, what I see so much, like all this stuff in the movies with the wokeness and stuff and these kind of things and all these things they're doing in the schools and stuff. I don't think they really believe this stuff is actually good or worthwhile or will actually work in the future. I think it's just all an attack. It's all part of an attack to demoralize their enemies. But the other thing that I keep pointing out, and I think people really need to understand this, is that nobody operates on this scale out of the sense of like malice or whatever. The real danger is that people who have too much power and mess around with this kind of stuff, but think they're doing it for the greater good. Because every catastrophe in human history has been carried out for the greater good.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? 100%. That's every tyrant, every dictator, every genocide, it's always like, well, this is for the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. And that's why I say, stop talking about the Satanist stuff, because first of all, everybody just instantly dismisses you, particularly people who you want to reach. And second of all, it's like, that's not how they see themselves. They don't see themselves as like the bad guys in someone else's story. They see it the exact opposite. And that's why like people like Alice Baylor say, you don't understand. They're not the bad guys in somebody's story. They're the good guys, and the winners rewrote the history. And we see this across the board. And that's why in some ways, no matter how dangerous it is, but it's almost like these people have to be given their chance to do whatever they think they're going to do so it can inevitably fail. And then we can get past all this nonsense. Because I got to tell you something. After this Olympics, I was like, I'm so sick of this stuff.
Yeah,
oh my God. I'm so sick of this stuff. It's so stupid. Oh man. So anyway.
I have a clip that for me went viral, 350,000 views on Instagram, but it basically, and like 100 and something thousand on Twitter, but it's basically me talking about the Olympics. And I'm like, I don't need drag queens everywhere all the time. I don't mind them. I don't care. I just don't need them everywhere all the time. And then one audience member decided to talk and got curb stomped for his fucking troubles. But the point is like, yeah, people are just tired, but you're totally right. Just let's fast forward this, man. Just take your shot, get it done. I think, COVID woke a lot of people up. And even though they still want to buy into the narrative of health and viruses, I don't think they're going to fall for it. They're trying to push monkeypox really bad right now. Johnny doesn't believe it. I just saw Luke Radowski talking about it. So Johnny, no matter what you think my algorithm is, okay, other people are talking about it as well. Okay.
Well, as what we were saying was that they're calling it mpox now because monkeypox just sounds a little too friendly. They want to,
but
gin up some controversy or some fear.
The exact same playbook they did with HIV and AIDS. They make you believe that a certain group can get it and they're the only ones who could be affected. And once you believe that and that becomes real to you, then they tell you, oh, look, this person just got it too. And they're just like you. And now you're stuck. And that's just how they get you to do it, man. It's like, again, it's this giant manifestation event. Monkeypox is really just shingles. That's what it is. And it's shingles because you took the vaccine and your immune system is effed. That's what's going on right now. It has nothing to do with fucking butt sex. It's like, okay, so why? So straight people having butt sex, none of them are getting monkeypox. Is there gay butt sex that's making monkeypox? No, it's just nobody actually sits down and go, what are you saying to us right now? Nobody does that. They just,
so that means it's chicken pox, right? That's the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's what basically it's shingles.
Well, so people who argue with me, but I really believe that the COVID thing was supposed to be a much bigger deal than it was.
I do too, bro.
I do too. And that's why they were, everybody was talking Build Back Better and the Great Reset and everything like that. This is really what gives me hope. I mean, a lot of things give me hope, but my hope is in the essential incompetence of these people to carry out these very complicated and far-reaching plans. They don't have the intellectual capacity to do these things. And COVID, obviously, I mean, look at what they were talking about, putting people in camps if they didn't take the jab. So, right? I mean, and you had all these assholes like, and there's this whole subgenre on Twitter now, like when these people who were, huge proponents and were attacking people like myself and probably you guys who didn't want to take it and saying that we're criminals and traitors and need to be put in camps and so on and lose our houses and our jobs and everything like that. Look at how many of those people end up dying or having heart attacks or strokes or cancers.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, we're not done with the repercussions of this, and it terrifies me because I know, a lot of people in my family and such that took it. So, because a lot of people had to, because you couldn't work in some cases if you didn't. So, I really truly believe that was supposed to be a much bigger deal than it was, and I think they're kind of scrambling now, to be honest with you. They're like, well, what do we do now? So maybe they'll try to do this monkeypox thing, but I don't know. I don't get a sense that this is going to be anything on that scale. But
I just get nervous because I think what's happening in the UK right now will eventually make it to America. And you also have, like, I saw a Muslim woman who's British and she's anti all that stuff. And she's like, these are foreign fighters. And a neighbor opened up a box and it had guns and ammunition in it. So my question is, like, they're really trying to ramp up the chaos because they can make money and they can keep pushing their agendas. Again, it's pressure from above, pressure from below. I just don't think, I think it's going to be almost insanely hard to start another race riot. I think people are over the George Floyd shit. I think people are over the COVID shit. I think it's real. And we're going to see, because what we're hoping for is that people can wake up that Trump and Kamala aren't going to save us. And then we have to save ourselves and stop fighting with each other. But I'm hoping that these people on the left will see what was been done to the democratic process, which is they have no primary. They've had none of that stuff. There's been no votes on it. Nobody knows who, they're talking about all the what's it, primary votes or whatever those things are.
Super delegates.
the delegates. Nobody knows what delegates gave her and what delegates didn't. They don't know any of that stuff. Any of it.
Well, but she's so perfect because, like I said, she's stupid as hell. I mean, that's why they're hiding her from the press, and she's only doing these very tightly controlled appearances because she's dumb. And I think people are going to figure that out before the election. But I don't know. Whoever's going to win is who they think is going to serve the war agenda best, because that's really the main topic on the plate for the ruling class right now, is this whole war project. And you talk about like this whole agenda in England and stuff. It's just classic ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos, problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah.
They want these 15-minute cities. They want the national IDs. They want the central bank digital currencies. They want full spectrum. They want what they're doing in Australia now, that where you have to get a permit to use the internet and so on and so forth. They want to put all these things in, but they realize that they can't now. So they have to create, intolerable situations for people, so they'll accept all this madness. But like I said, they'll get to that point. They'll put all these things into place, and then everything will collapse anyway. I mean, it's really a hopeless case for them in my regards. I mean, they are going to fail. And it's just a question of like how much suffering you and I and people like this and people around us and just ordinary people are going to have to endure to get to the other side of it. But it is going to fail. And I think, so all this ritualism that I'm always looking at, I don't see it as I've said this for a number of years now. It's a function of anxiety. I mean, they do all these rituals and they're becoming more and more brazen about them because they're afraid. They feel they need some sort of cosmic ally. They need these old gods, that were forgotten several centuries ago. They need to bring them back, to sort of bless their plans and so on. None of it is going to work. None of it is going to work. And they know it. I think they do know it. And I think they're becoming very desperate. And I think that's why we're seeing the kind of things that we're seeing in England and we'll probably see here. And we're seeing in other countries in Europe. I mean, Germany's even worse than England. So there you go.
All right, Christopher, this has been a wonderful episode as always. It just, these are my favorite, the hidden history, and just like outing these occult fucking momos for what they're doing. And it's so, I mean, like, dude, people need to wake up to that, man. People need to wake up to what they're co-signing onto. Okay. And it's just like most people I know just want to live their life. And, the drag queen stuff, they're like, I don't care. Just do it over there. And they leave the kids alone. Do it over there the way we grew up, which was like, okay, there's a cross-dresser. He's on that side of town and he lived that kind of life and nobody effed with him. That's what. And when I say I don't want that in my schools, I'm also talking about straight sex too. I don't need the substitute teacher talking about all the blow bang she's doing at fucking Dave and Buster's. Okay. We don't need any of that stuff. We don't need it. I don't need to hear straight stuff. Because if you really understood the history of sex ed, you realize it started by Kingsley. Okay, Edward Kingsley, and it was based on pedophilia. I mean,
Alfred Kingsley.
Alfred Kingsley, yeah. Alfred Kingsley, based straight up on pedophilia. So get the fuck out of here. One more time, Christopher, tell them where they can find you.
secretsun.blogspot.com.
All the links are below. Thank you so much, and let's break down this episode. All right, what'd you guys think?
I've always wanted to be an Olympic sport athlete, but not anymore. Not after this episode. I'm sad. The Olympics aren't what they used to be. The Olympics aren't what they used to be.
What sport did you said you always wanted?
I would
what
love
sport
to
did
know.
you want to do?
Soccer. I'm Mexican.
Yeah, who won that? Who won? Was it France that won?
No one knows.
No, they lost. France lost.
Who won that? Like, dude, it's crazy to me how everyone loses their mind on USA soccer. It's like, dude, it's like our fifth sport. They're like, we're going up against their best sport is our fifth sport. But it's totally, they're getting more and more brazen because they want to happen. All this occult symbolism. I don't know, man. It was like back when I was growing up, shout the devil, all that stuff. That was just like kind of like, funny, I guess. And now it just seems a lot darker. But even though, like, let's say Shout at the Devil, right? Or take any of the old satanic shit that they used to do. That was done for adults, okay? That's for adults.
What do you wait? Like Alice Cooper is for adults? No,
Yeah, but
no,
Alice Cooper was for adults, though.
no, dude. Alice Cooper was
No, but-
the kids loved Alice. All that. No, he was for kids.
What, buddy? What?
Kiss
How
is for adults.
Kids was for adults, dude. Right?
No, kids loved Kiss. The parents also used to call it. What did they call it? Knights in Satan's service is what they used to tell their kids it was about.
Yeah, but you did you see Kiss, let's say, doing all the satanic shit?
No,
in
they weren't as
the
bad.
Olympics?
No. Well,
That's what I'm saying.
What about like Judas Priest and stuff? Now I'd say they're more an adult band for sure.
And don't you remember on CDs you couldn't buy a CD unless your parent was there if it had a warning on it?
Yeah, well, me, dude. I'm so old. I remember there was a time before that when we were allowed to buy stuff and deal with the consequences.
Well, yeah, that was
And we
like
didn't
Tipper
need
Gore and all that shit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's interesting, dude. It's just like it just seems more brazen. And when you have like kid shows, like I've said this before on the show. I remember on YouTube there was a guy who had a kids YouTube channel teaching kids how to make spells. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah. No, that's different. Now I will say though, I mean, we had it growing up in the '90s too. Like Tool, every Tool album.
Oh
had,
yeah, Tool was crazy, dude. But when I was
Circle,
growing
all
up,
those bands.
fat chicks who wore black were seen as goth or satanic. I remember one time when these kids, 3 girls showed up. They were dressed all in black, and the fucking school lost its mind. They're like, they're Satan worship. I mean, these poor girls got ran out of school. I couldn't believe it. I go,
Really?
dude, did we just run out? Did we just run kids out of school? Because they wear black. And it's just,
I mean, that's half of LA. It's just people walking around wearing all black. So
yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
So you brought that up. Okay, 4 years from now, the Olympics will be here in LA.
I hope I don't live here.
Do you think it'll be way more progressive, less progressive? You think they learned a lesson? Do you think it's going to be the same shit?
I think it's going to be just as bad, if not worse, because it's not about money. The Olympics is like, we lost $2 billion. We may never recover. I'm like,
are they saying that really?
Yeah, they said they lost $2 billion. But I just don't think it's anything about that. I think
they didn't even play. Well, where do they lose the money from? They don't even play the. They don't even pay the players. Where does the money go?
I think
they have prize money, right?
What's that?
They have prize money, right? But I think the countries do it.
Yeah, the countries do it. Maybe people didn't go to the Olympics. Maybe people in France were like, I want to go there. It's all fucking shady.
Would you have ever gone, Sam? Would you have ever gone to?
I would like to go to the Olympics one time. Yeah, I mean, because I remember as a kid, and it was a big deal to me because it was every 4 years. They kind of diluted it by doing it every 2 years.
I'd like to go see boxing.
I like to see boxing. I mean, I would like to go see basketball. You know?
You guys believe that the medals were not as good quality as before? Everyone's posting the Paris, and they're like, and then like, look at my China one, and the China one's still pristine. All the other ones are like losing value.
2000, they said the 1912 gold medal was 99% gold, and this one was 1% gold.
That's sad. What's the
They're
point?
like, we lost money. I'm like, dude,
Buy
how
your
did you
gold,
lose
baby.
money?
Buy gold.
Buy
How'd you
your
lose money?
gold. There
How
you
come,
go.
Johnny,
Get
you
that
just
gold.
How do you keep getting? I'm putting up this. I can't get the thumbs up, but somehow you're getting the thumbs up. I don't get it.
Oh, John!
Look at that.
Oh,
I have no
he
idea.
flexed on you.
How
He
did
flexed
you do that?
on you.
I have no idea what's happening.
They don't. What is that, dude? That's the best. Whoa! Now you're making it snow, dude. Oh, whoa, Johnny. Do you have some kind of thing on? Do you have like?
No, this is actually in reality. I'm making it rain like
Oh,
with
okay.
my emotions.
All right, Flying Eagle. Gotcha. No, it's great. Like, he always comes on, Christopher Knowles, and just breaks down
He kills it.
Medusa. Now we got Mithras, and it's just like crazy. And you get into like the light bearer. It's like it's interesting stuff, dude.
Even the logo. I mean, even the most innocent thing, the logo, the mascot for the Olympics
mascot is Mithras cap, dude.
Hat.
That's so crazy.
A little condom, like a little cat.
Condom hat.
Yeah.
So crazy to me,
Weird.
dude. But you get into it, dude. They're definitely going to take their shot. I agree with him, though. And that's one thing. It's like, even though I'm, after we had that guy on, I'm starting to rethink the Hermetic principles. But I do believe in energy. And I think there's natural law. And these fucking power bottoms at the top don't follow it. They don't do any of it. And I think they're in deep shit, dude. That's my honest opinion. So
you think that
I think they're going to fall. I don't know what that looks like, though. I don't know what that looks like.
At what point are they afraid to lose eyeballs? Do you know what I mean? Like, people are so fed up with this that nobody watches anymore. Like, when does that become a consideration?
I mean, isn't that kind of where Hollywood is right now?
Right. I'm saying, yeah. When does that become a consideration for these major events like the Olympics?
Well, when these networks stop wanting to bid so much money.
Yeah. I
think the NHL went through that, right? Where like ESPN didn't want them. NASCAR, I think, went through that too. Like, NASCAR completely fell off when ESPN didn't and it's so weird because ESPN's numbers aren't good. But like, if you leave ESPN, you're effed.
Well, I mean, you know who left ESPN and they're kind of killing it? Poker. Poker doesn't do ESPN no more. They go on pokergo.com. They got everybody subscription, but they're obviously degenerates. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a whole, you're a gambler, you're degenerate.
I mean, dude, they were talking about like the occult people being unattractive. Have you seen poker people? I mean, that is not a good look.
There's the guys for sure, but there are some women, especially
and they get pushed to the front because they got big tits.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, you just got these things that are like kind of like evolving into big cultural things where there's a lot of money. So these genetic garbage people are going to have so much money that these incredibly hot women who should be mating with Vikings are going to start mating with garbage and just creating garbage, like halfway decent looking people. It's like Christy Brinkley's a great example of that. Like, you see when she mated with somebody on her level, and then when she mated with Billy Joel, his daughter is attractive, but the other one is like a goddess, right?
Yeah.
Like,
now you're just talking about physically though, because mentally, I mean, those kids are gonna have those genes, the smart genes, the can play piano genes. Those are valuable too. But I get what you're saying.
No, you're right, Johnny. You're right. Well, I thought it was a great episode, and I think I do agree with him. I just don't know. I do agree with him that it's not going to work for them. I just don't know. What that looks like and how bad does it got to get. But it's got to get bad to wake up these rich retard kids.
Rich retard kids? Yeah.
Yeah. Should that be the name of the episode? Rich retards?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Rich Retards.
Kids. You're not going to have the kids part?
That'd be a good podcast. I'd watch that podcast.
Rich Retards?
Yeah, Rich Retards. You could just get who could we have? Like the children of Hollywood celebrities, just kind of interview each other. There's a dude, my girl is watching this reality show now where the whole premise is that they take relatives of famous people and they put them against other relatives of famous people and they have to guess.
It's the worst show idea. I mean,
and the guy who's gonna crush it is a guy that she knew growing up, who is he's black, but his famous relative is white, and nobody's getting it, because he's black, and it's
and he can sing.
Yeah. What now?
Isn't that the show? Isn't the show where they sing?
No, there's no singing about it. No, it's just them trying to guess the. And he's Marlon Brando's like great grandson or something like that, and he's black, so nobody's gonna get it until
it's black, it's white. Yeah. All right, guys, it's been a great episode. Go to SamTripoli.com. Check out the website. You can go to SamTripoli.com for all my dates. I got more dates coming up. Go check out my premium content. It is fire. $8. get you deep conspiracy rewinds, AMAs, only conspiracies, dangerous, and of course, Johnny Cash's Bible. The last two only available on SamTripoli.com. I'm also on Substack if you prefer to go there. I'm also on Locals. I'm doing drive-bys on Locals. Wherever you prefer to go is I have content there everywhere except for Patreon. Now, I do have a Patreon. It's called patreon.com/cashdaddies. That's the only Patreon I have. No, actually, I also have Deep Conspiracy Rewinds, but no personal Sam Tripoli one. Join the Cash Days Patreon if you're looking for ways to invest your money and make money. Howie Dewey, Idiot Savant, heavy on the idiot, has been crushing it. And again, if you want to learn how to make proper love, just for $1,000, Johnny and I will watch you go to Pound Town. Everybody's going to Pound Town. So join us, dude. Join us so we can help you be better, Pound Town, the mayor of Pound Town. Live shows, t-shirts, all there. Chaos will be out. Let's get real quick into our affiliates, gold and silver. That's right, SamTripoli.gold, SamTripoli.gold. Use the promo code tinfoil and you'll get all of, be able to join the Wolf Pack. For as little as $50 a month, you get precious metals sent to your house right there. Bang, bang, pow. Anything? Then we have the other ones. Rife Technology, AquaCure, hydrogen brown gas, help you get your hydrogen, helps you age slower. Harley Ray, that's right. If you're looking for candles or crystals, look at that gorgeous website. They're the best ones. Just use Swarm15 to get 15% off your order. I just took my chemical-free bodies today. I take it every day. I have a green drink, and I also take the supplements. Tim James, chemical-free body. Then we go down. We also have EMF Rocks. That's right. Dirty energy, dude. Dirty electricity, grounding bag, Faraday bags. You need it all there, and you just got to use the promo code real quick. Go back to the promo code is tinfoil hat. And and then finally, if you think our good friend Xavier Guerrero has been crushing it, not sleeping on the show, not battling sleep, asking really great questions, it's because he is on Brain Supreme microdosing to help you focus on what you need to get done. Just go there, use the promo code SAM, I believe, go up. It's SAM15, SamTrip15. There we go. And you can join our you can join our telegrams, our social media. You go down, all your audio, all your videos, everything at SamTripoli.com. Xavier, do you have anything you want to push?
Yes, hit that like button, subscribe, go to Extreme Marks the Spot. I reviewed my Ford Raptor I just bought. I reviewed it. Go find out how much I paid for it.
Okay, Johnny.
Come check me out on Twitter. I'm bored and lonely. At Johnny Woodard.
Sometime these two retards will get a link tree so I can put it in the description. But nope, I guess that's
I don't have anything else to send people to. I don't need a tree when there's one. It would be the linked stump if it was me.
Yeah, link stump. Guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
Come on, dude.
Did you see this? So the New Yorker had reported this horrible thing that RFK did where he basically mutilated a bear corpse and all this stuff. So here's the real story of it. He was on, I guess, hanging out with Roseanne somehow. She's gone completely legit now. I'm not even playing.
It is so insane to me how boxed out this guy's gotten.
Oh, they won't let him. I mean, he should be in the debates.
He scares them so much.
Yes.
They just all of my friends. I had a couple friends on that Comics for Camilla thing, and I love them.
Wait, the white dudes for?
No, there was the second one was Comics for Camilla.
Okay.
That started?
Yeah. And I had a couple friends on him. One of them is, I would say, probably one of my best friends.
Oh boy.
And I would rather have a best friend than get in a political argument. So I just let it go, right? I just let it go.
Not worth it.
But the way this whole process has happened with Kamala Harris, and nobody on that side is questioning it. Nobody. And when you take a look at what, like,
I mean, why would they?
When the DNC literally was sued by their constituents about forcing them to take Hillary Clinton. Their whole defense is we are a private corporation and we are under no obligation to give you the candidate you want. And then look how this is played. He scares them so much that they completely and utterly destroyed the tradition of running for president by these two major parties.
Yeah. No, he's totally, like you said, he's iced out.
Who hosted Tough Crowd? Colin
Quinn.
He had the best joke.
He's great.
He had the funniest joke about how the worst system ever is socialism and communism because they only get to pick on one candidate. And he goes, but we have the best. Ours is the best because we get to pick two.
Yeah.
So we get one more
He's so funny,
than the worst. It's the best bit possible. It's
great.
so funny, dude.
He's so good with politics, man.
But like this has been a complete box out because she could not debate him.
No,
and there's
yeah. I mean, it's,
like this delusional thing where
she
like
would take
I
him
do
in.
not understand why Trump doesn't go on ABC and just murk these motherfuckers.
what do you mean on a debate?
Debate.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they're finally gonna get it on Fox, right? Like, and then she'll do.
Like he
she'd
should
agreed
go
to do it, and then said she wouldn't do it.
Yeah, but he
so I
should
don't-
go wherever because he murks them every time. Look at the black reporters convention. He murked those people. They all look stupid.
Oh yeah, we played that last week.
Yeah.
It was
So
wonderful.
I go, yeah, wherever you want me to do at your family reunion? Do you want me to come to your house and murk you at your family? All I ask is that we live stream it and I can bring my cameras. I will go to Kamala Harris celebrating our family's ancestry of selling slaves summer cookout, okay? We'll go there. I'll show up.
So we're a little short of time here. So they're trying to make RFK sound like a animal, like he's done crimes against animals. But here's the true story of what happened. It does make him sound a little bit. I think he used to have some party days, and this was like 10 years ago. Maybe he was still in them. Listen to this.
I was taking a group of people falconing up in Goshen, New York, up in the Hudson Valley. And
By the way, how spoiled old money are you taking a group of people falconing?
Right.
was supposed to meet them there at like maybe 8 or 9. I was driving up maybe, really early, like 7. And that woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. So I pulled over and I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear. And it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear. And so then we went hawking, and I had the bear in my car. And then we had a really good day, and we went late. We were catching a lot of game, and the people really loved it, so we stayed late. And instead of going back to my home in Westchester, I had to go right to the city because there was a dinner at Peter Luger's Steakhouse.
Nice.
And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport. And the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car because that would have been bad. So then I thought, at that time, this was the.
By the way, he's
a
shredded.
little bit of the redneck in me.
Look how
There've been
built
a
he is.
series of bicycle accidents.
By the way, he just said he had some redneck in him, which there's nobody has any less redneck than RFK Jr. There's no way he just says it.
yeah.
This was a little bit.
So hold
of the
on. Do you think he says I have some redneck in me because he can't say I have some retard in me?
Maybe.
Do you think that's it? Yeah, I got some redneck in me. Meaning I'm a retard?
Maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because there's nobody is less redneck than the
Dude,
Kennedy
you are
family.
Kennedys are one of the old families,
Elites,
the
yeah.
13 families.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I got some redneck in me. Yeah.
What is he talking about?
That means you ate a redneck child at some point.
Yeah, that's the only way.
At that time, this was a little bit of the redneck in me. There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes, and saw a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press. And so I thought, I wasn't drinking, of course, but people were drinking with me who thought this was a good idea. And I said, I had an old bike in my car that somebody asked me to get rid of. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike. It'll be funny for people. So everybody thought, that's a great idea. So we went and did that, and we thought it would be amusing for whoever found it or something. The next day, it was like, it was on every television station. It was the front page of every paper, and I turned on the TV, and there was like a mile of yellow tape, and there were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then there were some people on TV in Tyvek suits with gloves on lifting up the bike, and they're saying they're going to take this up to Albany to get a fingerprinted. And I was worried because my prints were all over that bike. Luckily, the story died down after a while, and it stayed dead for a decade. And the New Yorker somehow found out about it, and they're going to do a big article on me, and that's one of the articles. So they asked me, the fact checker said,
Anyway, so yeah, he got a call from the fact checkers telling him that there's going to be a bad story about this coming out. But that's weird, isn't it? It's strange.
It's okay. It's from a different time when you could do funny shit. Right?
Yes.
That's
it's a prank.
Funny to me.
It's a prank. Yeah.
That's a prank. He didn't kill the bear.
Check this out. I just want to show you. This is the original report.
Bear cub is discovered dead in, of all places, Central Park. An apparent case of animal cruelty. CBS 2's Matt Kozar has more on the bear mystery.
In a popular section of Central Park, an unusual crime scene.
Look at this.
We're about over here.
We found this
Lauren
bear.
Slatkin says she was walking her dog this morning when she saw something furry underneath the bushes.
By the way,
police say the 3-foot-long black.
Yeah. What?
My favorite, and then we got to jam.
Yeah, I'm sending the invite to her. Yeah.
Dude, older women have one or two things at all time on them. They either have a wrist brace or they have a foot brace. That's it. Those are the two things. They have always. They're always. What's your say?
I was inviting that one.
Okay. They have foot brace or they have an arm brace at all times, constantly.
Atkins says she was walking her dog this morning when she saw something furry underneath the bushes. Police say the 3-foot-long black bear cub had stab and slash wounds and appears to have been dumped there. Adding to the mystery, Slatkin says the baby bear was lying on top of this bicycle, which police confiscated as evidence.
The bicycle was under the bushes. Part of the bicycle was sticking out, and that's what we saw. Then when we looked closer, we could see something on the back wheel, just laying on the back wheel.
The spot where the bear was found is not in a secluded part of Central Park. It's right near West Drive, where thousands run and bike every day.
It's horrible. It's very bizarre.
To think that somebody with criminal intents would do such a thing right here in our backyard is disturbing.
The Department of Environmental Conservation carefully removed the bear. And
It makes you wonder how much of the news is just this shit like this, dude.
Dude, how many times? I mean, you see it happen on.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.